The first weekend of the 2019 NBA playoffs has concluded, and now let's take a look at how these underdogs won Game 1 of their series on the road. This video is sponsored by Ridge Wallets. The Ridge Wallet is a minimal, front pocket wallet that's designed to let you ditch your bulky wallet. This wallet is slim, RFID blocking, and lifetime guaranteed. It comes in titanium, carbon fiber, aluminum, polycarbonate, and with over a dozen different styles and colors. Get 10% off today with free worldwide shipping by going to ridgewallet.com/Andy. Alright, let's get started. The Brooklyn Nets against the Philadelphia 76ers. Going into the series, it was quite obvious who the favorites were. It's been obvious all year that the Sixers are looking to contend for the championship as they've built their team with that goal in mind. However, Game 1 was a disaster. Literally nothing went right. Now, I'm not saying that the Nets didn't play fantastically, they did. The Nets were amazing and their defense was particularly great, holding JJ Redick and Tobias Harris to a combined 9 points on 4 of 14 shooting. Before the series started, I thought JJ Redick would be the X factor because there were many times throughout the season where he would lead the team in scoring, and he could carry an entire offense sometimes. However, historically, Redick's numbers plummet in the playoffs. Even back when he was on the Clippers, he would shoot much worse and his scoring dropped off drastically. This is because during the playoffs, opponents actually plan to stop Redick and focus more on preventing him from getting open looks. And when Redick is not getting open looks, he can't really do much else. That's why his numbers always dip from the regular season to the playoffs. As for Ben Simmons, the Nets guarded him the same way other teams guarded him in last year's playoffs. They gave him a lot of space and he still can't shoot, so defenders focused on cutting off his passing lanes. That's another reason why Tobias and JJ both struggled to get open looks, because they forced Ben to make harder passes. Joel Embiid, I'm not sure what's going on with him. I believe he has a slight knee injury, and that's why he only played 24 minutes. But it seemed like every time he was on the floor, the Sixers would go to him and he drew a lot of fouls, especially on the Nets' Jarrett Allen. But yeah, he needed to play more minutes, he is their best player. However, Jimmy Butler was amazing, 36 points, incredibly efficient, and he usually steps it up in the playoffs every year. It's no different this time either, but he just didn't have any help. On the Nets side of things, the way they defended Ben's passing lanes and prevented Tobias and JJ from going off, that was crucial. And they know that without their shooters, the Sixers' offense will collapse, and then they'll just resort to ISOs. Caris LeVert looks completely healthy now after that devastating injury early in the season, so that's good. Spencer Dinwiddie hit some clutch shots, and D'Angelo Russell started off the game really slow, shooting 3 for 15 from the field, but then he hit 7 of his next 10 shots and closed them out in the fourth quarter. The Orlando Magic against the Toronto Raptors. Just like with the Philly series, most assumed that the Raptors would have a cakewalk in the first round. But the Magic shockingly defeated them, and at one point, they even had a 14-point lead in the second quarter. However, for anyone who's been paying attention to the Magic, they've been really good in the second half of the season. From the beginning of the season to February, they went 21-31, which is a pretty bad record. But then, since February, they've gone 21-9. So they've been rapidly improving throughout the season. In that time, from February to the end of the season, they had the second best record in the Eastern Conference and the best defensive rating since the All-Star break. You could tell from watching the game too, their defense is suffocating. Aaron Gordon stuck to Kawhi like glue, and even though Kawhi still had a great game, he was forced into a lot of difficult shots. The rest of the team's personnel, like Jonathan Isaac, Evan Fournier, Michael Carter-Williams, Terrence Ross, they're all extremely long and it gave the Raptors trouble. You could tell their offense was really unorganized sometimes. The Magic also secured 10 offensive rebounds. And of course, there's DJ Augustin, who turned into prime Derrick Rose and Steph Curry combined. He had the best playoff game of his career, and it was clear that the Raptors did not prepare for DJ Augustin. On the other side of the spectrum, Kyle Lowry was terrible, as we all know. 0 points, that's unacceptable. I mean, think about it. Kyle Lowry, a 5-time All-Star, got outplayed by DJ Augustin and Michael Carter-Williams, two guys who played on 5 different teams in the last 5 years. That's absolutely ridiculous. Also, if you told me that Nikola Vucevic, Aaron Gordon, and Terrence Ross combined to shoot 8 for 35 from the field, I would have thought the Magic would get stomped. But it's crazy that they still won, despite their primary scorers having terrible scoring nights. Defense was the main reason they won. Combine that with the Raptors having to claw their way back after being down by 14 in the second quarter, it was a bad situation all around. Also, when you look at the Raptors' rotations and their minutes, it seemed kinda strange. Besides Pascal Siakam, everyone else played 33 minutes a game or fewer. Usually in the playoffs, starters would get even more minutes than the regular season, especially in such a closely contested game like this. Kawhi is clearly the best player on the team, yet he only played 33 minutes? Are they still managing his injuries? There's no reason why the best player should play only 33 minutes when he's healthy, especially since he was playing so well. In Nick Nurse's post-game press conference, a reporter actually asked him about Kawhi's limited minutes, because he was wondering. The Raptors were managing his minutes all season long, so he could play more in the playoffs, but yet he still hasn't. This was Nick Nurse's response.
No reason for it, and yes, he could have went a little bit longer. I think just the stretches were okay there. I think with him out, and I liked what was happening, so got him in. We put him up there a little bit earlier in the fourth, but the clock didn't stop until a timeout, so that was another factor a little bit that had him a little low. But yeah, I looked at it too, and I thought we should have him out there a little bit more. But I think once I go back through it, it's not going to be. It wasn't by design to play him under 35 minutes or any of that kind of stuff.
Seems reasonable, kinda, maybe, but not really. I mean, in a tense playoff game like that, I feel like he should have played close to 40 minutes. He played even more minutes back in San Antonio. Kawhi playing that little might have been the difference between the Raptors winning and losing the game. The San Antonio Spurs against the Denver Nuggets. It's kinda weird to say that the Spurs are the underdogs here, but I'm just going by record and seeding. The Nuggets, as the 2 seed, have higher expectations than the Spurs, who nobody really talked about all season long. The game was very close throughout, with the Spurs holding on to a slight lead for basically the entire game. Down the stretch, in the final few minutes, the Nuggets had multiple chances to take the lead and win. A late game turnover by Jokic, then Jamal Murray missed a completely wide open mid-range jump shot, a shot that he normally makes. Then in the following possession, Murray turned it over. This sequence is what ultimately led to the Nuggets' loss, but I think fundamentally there were some other problems with their whole offense. Jokic is not known to be a score-first player. He might not have that mentality, and we saw multiple times when he just gave up the ball even when he had a smaller guy on him. Yes, he did get a triple-double, but 10 points from your leading scorer, your lone superstar? Jamal Murray had some good moments, but there's no reason why Jamal Murray should be taking 14 more shots than Nikola Jokic. On the Spurs side of things, both DeRozan and Aldridge had below-average games, but the rest of the squad picked up the slack. The player of the game has to be Derek White, who I recently talked about in a recent video about sophomore players who got overlooked. White has been phenomenal all year, and he's been hitting clutch shots, he's been playing clutch defense. It's nothing new to Spurs fans. But for everyone else, this might be the first time they've heard of him or seen him play, and now I'm sure they're convinced that he's a legit young player. At just 24 years old, White's game is steady and consistent as he plays like a controlled veteran. Let's say if the Spurs do end up knocking out the Nuggets in the first round, I wouldn't say it's a huge upset. They're only separated by 6 wins, and you gotta take into account the Spurs and Coach Pop's playoff experience. Most of their team is older and have years and years of playoff experience, while the Nuggets are the new kids on the block. Besides Paul Millsap, the rest of the team is so young. If I was betting on one lower-seeded team to get past the first round, it would have to be the Spurs. Possibly OKC as well, they have a chance too, but we're not sure about that. I still think the Spurs have a better chance of winning their series. It's not a knock on Denver though. I think everyone expected this to be a really tough series, and it's gonna be a tough series. And that's all folks, that sums up how those 3 underdogs won Game 1 in the opening weekend of the 2019 NBA playoffs. Let me know your thoughts on these teams, and do you actually see an upset happening in the future? Do you see any of these lower seeded teams pulling it through and defeating the favorites? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you everyone so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.